exciting episode of Codename New to Vero 2. I'm your presenter, Shabu Are You. We're not going to do anything G.I. Joe related today. We are doing a comic review, but we're not doing anything that's like, Hasbro or Mattel or any of the popular manufacturers and their franchises. We're not going to deal with that. But we are going to go into another iconic figure that kick-started in the 80s and that has lasted through the 90s, the 2000s, and they are still going strong. And that figure is none other than Elvira, Mistress of the Dark. Oh, I know what you're thinking. I know where your mind is going. But hey, wait a second. That's the big catch. You have to look beyond that. And she said it herself, that if you focus in on this, you're missing the joke. And that's what makes Elvira so cool and so awesome and so sexy, is that she's funny. It's funny like in the tongue-in-cheek, like the dad joke type of funny. That's what is amazing about the character Elvira. And you have to give credit to Cassandra Peterson. How smart it was for her. I think she said she was getting $300 in those early episodes. That's it. I think that's what they renegotiated for. But she made a point. Say, hey, I'll accept this offer, but I need to have control. Can I just have this character? And they thought, whatever. In like 6 months, this will be gone. Sure, lady, you have the rights to Elvira. And from that is the genius. And from then on, she became an empire. Marketing herself. I mean, just that insight, that's the intelligent aspect. We all think of Elvira as a sex symbol with big, but nah, I mean, that's the beauty of the character Elvira. So recently, Dynamite Comics, based out of Mount Laurel, New Jersey, not too far where I grew up, has produced this limited run of Elvira comics. The thing is, this is a pleasant surprise for us Gen Xers, for us that grew up in the zenith of the comic age, and again, I recommend going to Comic Tropes by Chris Pierce. His channel is amazing. So please go to Chris and subscribe to his channel. You'll be thanking me. I love it. So the thing is that this is a pleasant surprise. Elvira, and it's like a fan, it's like a love letter. That's what this comic series is. And you will be entertained and have a smile the entire journey. And that's why it's a hidden gem, total hidden gem. And why I recommend everyone to go and pick up a copy and smile along in this wonderfully, tastefully done comic book. Now, there's different variants, like as far as the covers, and that's the interesting part. There's a photo variant, which is usually D, and then there's all these artistic ones that are done. So that makes an added dimension to the collecting of Elvira comics. I'm going to show a few of them. So this is issue number 1. There's 2 titles going on. There's Elvira, Mistress of the Dark, and then Shape of Elvira. The story is that she goes back in time and is being chased by Vlad the Impaler, who turns out to be Dracula, right? So that's where the hijinks and the comedy starts, because she'll pop up and then there's Edgar Allan Poe, and she has to help Edgar Allan Poe while being chased by Vlad the Impaler. It's hilarious. It's engaging. It's funny. So sit back. We're going to go through these comics. You like this one, huh? And there's this one. These are the photo variants, and then there's the artistic ones. So there's probably like 3 of them, and then there's the photo one. I've been collecting the photo ones because they're pretty damn cool. I mean, you know why. I'm married. So I think you guys will enjoy this. So sit back and let's get it going, all right? We always begin with a different cover variants when I highlight any comic books. Again, we do the artistic ones, and these are the photo ones. The photo ones are actually have a little bit more of a demand on the secondary market. I've noticed this. For obvious reasons, there are famous pictures of Elvira through the years, and hey, where you going? Back here. This comic recap and review is going to be extra special because we have writer David Avallone here to answer some questions and to give us a little bit of an insight. Mr. Avallone's first assignment was a 5-issue stint on legendary Vampirella back in 2015. His work includes Doc Savage, The Shadow, Twilight Zone, and America's favorite pinup Betty Page series. Recently, he's part of a team-up with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle fame Kevin Eastman. Now, this is going to be a little bit different. Mr. Avallone was really nice and kind to answer some questions I had posed to him. So I'm going to go ahead and read the response to those questions while the clips of the comic are going on in the background. The first question is, were you a fan growing up? And can you recall first looking at her and the impact that it made on you? His response, I am old enough that I was mostly grown up when Cassandra started playing Elvira. I can't remember my first exposure to her. I remember that she had cameos in Pee-wee's Big Adventure and Encino Park in 1985-86. I was aware enough of her that I recognized her, even out of costume. I was 20 in 1985, and I remember being excited that she had her own movie in 1988, and loving the movie and loving her in it. Question number 2. Was this concept brought to you from her and her reps, or was it something that Dynamite had to pitch to her? He answers, Dynamite's senior editor, Joseph Ray-Ban, was in Los Angeles on business. He took me out to dinner. I think I was between projects at the time, having just wrapped up the first volume of the Betty Page comic, before I knew there'd be a second one. He said that Dynamite had a deal to make an Elvira comic. He and Nick Barucci, Dynamite's publisher, wanted me to do it. I will admit that I took a pause, because after Betty Page, I was afraid that it was the same thing, and I was just repeating myself. I told him that I'd think about it and see if I could come up with the pitch. So I went home and told my wife, who said that I had to do it for her, because she loves Elvira. When I talked to the artist I've done most of my comic work with, the amazing David Acosta, who, it turns out, is also a huge Elvira fan. He sent me some covers from the 1950s celebrity comedy books, like Bob Hope and Jerry Lewis comics. That really helped me understand what we were doing. Betty Page is a fun romp, but it's not an outright comedy. Elvira is something different. The comedy is actually the main thing, more than the horror, more than the story. It has to be funny on every page, almost in every panel, because Elvira is constantly funny. That's a lot of work, but I thought it would be a fun challenge to imitate her quote-unquote voice and style. I came up with 3 pitches, and they liked 2 of the 3 and asked me to choose. I chose Time Scream. It seemed like having a horror hostess time travel to meet Mary Shelley, Poe, Bram Stoker, etc. would be the most fun. When it came out and did very well, I'm proud that Elvira, Mistress of the Dark, #1 was Dynamite's best-selling single issue in 2018. They asked me to do another miniseries to run at the same time, so I reminded them of the other pitch they had liked, the Shape of Water satire. They green-lighted that too. Question number 3. Once you got the green light, how did you prepare and research? He answers, first off, I watched the first movie, Elvira, Mistress of the Dark, again. Watched some YouTube videos of her Not Scary Farm show. She was exactly who I remembered, but it was fun to watch her, as it always is. Aside from Elvira, the comic involves time travel, and I'm a big believer in research, so I read up on the people she would meet and the places where she would go. A lot of the story comes from that. For an example, in issue 3, I researched the real life of Bram Stoker. I learned that a lot of the story of Dracula seemed, to me at least, to come from a conflict arising out of his unhappy marriage. So, Of course, issue 3 is almost entirely about Bram and Francis Stoker's horrible marriage. Question number 4. Did you have the opportunity to meet/speak with Cassandra Peterson? Did she provide any input as to make sure certain things were incorporated? He answers, I've met Cassandra a couple of times at her signings. The photographic evidence is on my Instagram. She seems very nice. And she gets to see every script before it gets drawn and approves everything. That said, she's been very complimentary about my work and incredibly kind. She usually suggests a few jokes per issue, and they're always great, and I've always incorporated them. I'm honored and humbled to be writing this character, and it means the world to me that she digs what I'm doing. So once again, I wanted to thank Mr. Dave Avallone for taking the time to answer my questions and give us a little insight into this wonderful comic. I really think that this is a hidden gem. And if you're a fan of retro or 80s or Elvira, this comic does nothing but bring smiles. So before I wrap up this video, just keep in mind that there's 2 Elvira books going on at the same time, as Dave pointed out. And they're both miniseries. So this is going to be, a few issues and then it's going to be done. I highly recommend go to the comic store, pick this up, and enjoy both titles. And I'm like a lot of you. I'm a hardcore 90s comic guy, and I approve of this 110%. Once again, this is Codename New to Vero 2, signing off.